Hi, Peter.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm pretty good, Trying to get this. Boy, all right. Let me get this thing straightened out over here. Where are you?
Place called Thornby. It's about 15 miles up the coast from Liverpool.
Okay,
Yeah, the UK's northwest.
got it. I'm
So
in San Francisco.
you're in San Francisco,
Yeah, I'm home. I come for about a week.
right? See, Peter. I mean, we're here to talk about a live recording that just happens to celebrate your 50-year career. What does that feel like? That your career has lasted 50 years?
Is that what it says on there? 50
I
years.
do
What
be
year is
told.
this? 226. Yeah, I mean, I've been at it more than 50 years. 50 years ago, yeah, though.
You
You
broke
know,
through. Yeah.
there's a record coming out on Third Man Records this year. It's called 50th Anniversary, and it's the Nerves record. It's the first record I made with the Nerves. That was 76, and I'd already been playing for a few years as a musician. I started playing in. Hey man, I wrote my first song in 1965. So, and then I was hanging out with a bunch of hippies in 69 writing songs, kind of like the court jester with a bunch of older people. And then went out to California in 73. I mean, it's a long story. It doesn't really seem like 50. I mean, I don't know what 50 years means, except I just look back at my memories, but it's weird. I don't know. I don't look at it like that, but the record company does. I mean, I guess I do. Yeah, 50 years, I mean, you still got to do all the same stuff, The music business has changed so many times, you watch the new I'm looking for my glasses. Here they are. Um, you know, there's just been so many that's even worse. And there's been I don't know what the deal with that is.
50 years, you see, Peter.
The music business has changed so many times. When I came in, it was like when the nerves were going, we couldn't get arrested because we were playing like these short songs that were fast, and we kind of rejected a lot of the rock and roll trappings of the 70s. I couldn't stand all the long guitar solos and the posturing and all that. So we had to break in on that, and then it just keeps changing though, and then at some point there I went back to my roots, which was I started out as a solo and playing anyhow, not to get into the head of the story or anything like that. I've just seen a lot of stuff come and go. You know what I mean? You see them coming, you see them getting off the bus, coming to town with their manager, a guy with a big
Yeah,
cigar, and then you see him later down behind the bar. You know, I, I don't know, man. Some people come in and you see them go to like blast off and go to number one. Like, oh my God, that person. Like a lot of times it's the least likely to succeed that like hits it big. So it's a weird. The world itself is pretty amazingly transforming all the time. So I don't know if that answers that question, but it's kind of early for me. I just woke up a little while ago. I was up all night, so that's a
I mean,
rambling answer to a concise question.
you gave a hint there, Peter, of say what you've been through in terms of your career. But I mean, in
Right.
terms of the new record, I mean, the songs cover that expanse, and what's obvious is that you might have been new wave, you might have been punk at the time, you might have been hippie, yeah, even earlier. But I mean, it's Peter Case, the
Right.
songwriter, that comes through. I mean, is that how you see yourself?
Yeah, you know what? And that's one of the ways I see myself, and that's always been the thing I was interested in was songs. Like I was always like most focused on the songs for some reason. And I never really learned how to shred, on the guitar. And I don't
Good
I can't
job.
shred on any instrument. And so it, I like words and I like melody and I like, what songs can do, and that's always been my first thing that I loved. So through all those different eras, that's what it was.
And in the early 80s, you had the Plimsolls, yeah, who had a reasonable amount of success. And you've covered A Million Miles Away on the new album. I mean, what was it like playing that song now as opposed to
Well,
when
when
it
it came out, it really exploded out and like really got, really broke through and made a lot of fans for the Plimsolls. But I kind of shelved it for quite a while. I didn't feel like it was my best song or anything like that. I felt like I was writing better songs and it was just well known because it had received a lot of promotion, basically. It was on Geffen Records, it was on Bomp originally, but it just got a lot of radio and a lot of promotion and a lot of energy went into elevating that song, but I didn't necessarily feel like it was my best song. By the way, they spelled the guy's name wrong. It's Chris Fradkin on the record. It's Peter Case, Joey Alkus, and Chris Fradkin. I just got a letter from him yesterday, and I'm going to say that to everybody I talked to about it. We wrote that together as a group effort, but I didn't include the song in my sets for a long time because it just, for one thing, it sounds good with a band, but it didn't really translate to like a solo guitar piece that well for me. As far as I was concerned, I didn't feel that comfortable with it. There's something about a song that you can just play alone with a guitar and sing to people and look them right in the eye and sing it. And there's something about the way it develops and the way that it hits people that I didn't really feel like was in A Million Miles Away. And I just let it go. And sometimes people would really want to hear it and they'd come to my show, they'd, okay, and so they want to hear it, I understand wanting to go hear, I mean, I wanted to hear Doug's song play She's About a Mover, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it was like, and he did, and so, that kind of thing. And so I'd play it when people asked. But when I did this record, I was playing with these guys, um, Bill Stock and Henry Cash and Sophie Sky, and they've got like this. They have a band called Starcrawler. I've known these people since they were children. Like when I met these guys, I hate to admit that, like I was with their dad playing guitar, and they were on the rug playing with their dinosaur toys. It was a long time ago, and so like, little Lion King toys on the rug, and we were like, or whatever the hell they were playing with. And so I've known them ever since they were little, and they took up music, and now they've got a pretty successful rock and roll career going with Starcrawler, at least over here, and I don't know where else, but they're a really good band. They're young, and I'm so happy to see him doing something like that. But then they started this what they call their Americana band, which is Cash and Sky, which is Sophie Sky singing, and they're pretty adept. And Bill, who plays rhythm guitar and Starcrawler, he started playing pedal steel, and I don't know if you know about, the deal with pedal steel is like guitar players can't just pick up the pedal steel. It's like Sword in the Stone or something.
yeah.
Like you can put it in front of a lot of guys that can really play guitar and they can't play it. But Bill sat down and he can immediately play pedal steel. So anyhow, the idea Henry says, "Yeah, we'll back you up," because I want him to play a few songs with me at McCabe's and their dad too, because I generally do that when I play McCabe's. They've sat in with me a number of times. And he goes, "Let's do A Million Miles Away, and we'll do it with you on the piano." And that had never occurred to me. And so, okay, let's do that. And it was just a different version. And I did see a whole different side in the song, which I was enabled, which we recorded. So I guess it changes the recipe when you put it on the piano. I lowered it one key, and all of a sudden the words take on a different thing, and I slowed it down a little bit, and I put these chords I was working on over it, and under it, and it changed its meaning a little bit, but it was fun to do it. People seem to like it. I'm actually getting a pretty good response. I mean, it seemed like it could have gone a number of different ways. There's been a lot of versions of that song by other people.
Yeah, it's
Steve Wynn recorded it at one point, and I can't remember who else recorded it. A lot of people, and I mean, not that many, but quite a few. And And looking at the whole world, most of the people in the world haven't recorded it, but quite a few have. So yeah, so it was fun to do that, and I think we got a good version of it. I like it, and I wouldn't have put it on there if I didn't, because we did 2 nights at McCabe's, and then put the best of the 2 nights on there.
I mean, the Caves is a legendary venue. You know,
Right.
the number of people who must know about it would have never been. I mean, how important was that venue to this record?
I think it was, here's how the record happened was I wasn't even going to do a record like this, and this guy Len Fico, he's like the head man at Sunset Boulevard Records. He called me up and said he wanted a live album, and he'd see me play somewhere, and he goes, we're going to do a 2 record set. I want all the songs, and I want the talking too. Like nobody had ever said that to me before. But he wanted it, and he was willing to, make it. I said, well, okay, well, it's got to be McCabe's. He goes, yeah, I think so too, because McCabe's was it's sort of my home club, but it's also the first place I played as a solo in '84. After first place I played as a solo after being in the Plimsolls, and I worked out a lot of my thing there. I've played so many, I talk about it on the record, but it's a very warm room. It's a great place, and it's just really fun to play there, and I feel pretty comfortable there. And my career never really went past the size of that room at McCabe's. Like it's funny. Like I've just got a lot more of those rooms. I say, I play for 150, 200. The other night I played for about 350 or 400 people in Boston, and that's like a big show for me, man. And but like McCabe's, that kind of room I feel the most comfortable in. And McCabe's was the first one I did it in because you can feel the room, you can feel all the people in the room, you can almost see everybody in certain moments when they turn the lights up or something. And I don't know, there's something about it that feels very responsive to me, and I enjoy it. It feels really very human, like you're playing for people. And sometimes when you're playing these big, like I've played big gigs, and you're just playing for like this it's like a big person, a big giant, you're playing for or something. But you are playing for people. I mean, I played the Cambridge Folk Festival, and there's quite a few people at that, and that went well, and I enjoyed it. But they were very tuned into this kind of music. But I played big shows, man. Plimsouls used to open up shows for Petty and stuff, and we went and did this festival. I've only done a few of these big festivals, but I don't even know how people do them, man. Like you're standing there on stage and it's like broad daylight and you're looking out over like, God knows how many 50,000 or 75,000 people like stretching and you see things going on out there that you're trying to sing, but like you're seeing like, people are going naked and they're like throwing up and they're fighting and the balloons are bouncing around and like people are opening up picnic baskets and taking out huge legs of things. And I mean, it's it's, you have to look at kind of like so I do like playing small. I mean, I like the way things are going.
I
What did
mean,
James Brown? Yeah, James Brown said that the way I like it is the way it is.
and I mean, we talked about the length of your career, but you've released albums all the way through. You know, I mean, your last album was in 2023, wasn't it? Dr. Moon, and you've got that's covered on the new album, I believe.
Yeah.
So, what in terms of playing your songs, I mean, do you prefer playing your new songs or how, what's your view as a songwriter? What you prefer doing? Your new songs or some of your greatest hits? What gives you the biggest kick?
Well, I don't really have greatest hits so much, but I do have songs the songs that I play a
Yeah,
lot, songs that really resonate with the audiences that you feel, or they resonate really deeply with me, and usually both. Um, I'm always excited to try to create new songs and make a new record. And every time you make a new record, it's an adventure, and you're setting off into new things, and you're trying to see if you can find a way to hit the live wire, you know.
You
But
also put,
you don't
put
always hit it on all the songs, you know. So like you'll think you're hitting it on all the songs, and
at the time.
then you know, but then like some of them, you know, some of them are really good on the record, but then they don't translate so as much to the live thing as you wish, you know, and for different reasons and stuff. So I find like every album I do, like there's like two or three or four, or maybe two or three really that, you know, you continue to play live because they feel like they still have a life, like they continue to take on a life in the rooms you're playing. But I love writing songs, and it's always like it's a thing done with the highest of hopes, you know. You know, probably irrationally, you know, I'm going to write a song, you know. It's like, you know, anything can happen. You make a song up out of nothing, you know, and it's fun. And
Mm.
it's a
Not many people could do it, Peter, and they?
yeah, I feel gifted, you know, I feel lucky, not gifted. I feel lucky, you know, fortunate to be able to write songs, but I've been doing it ever since I was a kid, you know. Like I, I guess I mean, I wrote a song called when I was 11, I wrote a song called Stay Away From Me, I'm No Good For You. I mean, what the hell was I thinking about when I was 11, you know? But it was to a girl, you know, and I don't know. But then I started, but I wrote a lot of songs that nobody really wanted to hear, and then I started writing songs that anybody wanted to hear twice. Took a number of years, you know. Maybe it was '69. I wrote the song. It's on. I don't know if you've heard the album called Midnight Broadcast, but that starts out with a song called Just Hanging On, and I wrote that song when I was 15. And so that was the first one, like older, you know, like people had been to college and stuff, they would say, you know, or, you know, just the older people, you know, the older teenagers that were hanging around, like, well, play that song again, you know, it's pretty good. And that was the first time that ever happened. But then I came to, you know, I left home. Once I left home, it was, I left home like shortly after that, my parents' home, really. And it became a lot harder to write for a while because life was in such an uproar.
Life
Because
got away. Yeah.
it's hard to be traveling and write and like not live anywhere and you know like and so you know it took me quite a while until I finally landed in the Nerves and that was like we had a place to live and everything like that and it was the start of a new period of writing and stuff like that and I stripped everything back at that point to be one of the Nerves and we were like writing very minimal very simple songs, but trying to orchestrate them. And it was a great step back, you know, like to real simple work, you know. But yeah, it's always an adventure writing songs. I forget what the question was, but yeah. And so I like the new ones, and then it's always exciting, and you have high hopes, and then you hope that, and all of a sudden, and then every once in a while, you're like, wow, I can't believe we just got this song, you know. And so it's a joy, you know, to have something appear out of nowhere like that.
You cover Coltrane as well on the new album.
Yeah.
I mean,
You know,
what?
Joe Coltrane became important to me. I mean, the first record I bought when I bought two records when I first came to California, and I didn't even have a record player. You know, I didn't live anywhere, but I used to like I tried to find you and go over to your house to listen to my records. I had Coltrane Plays the Blues, and I had Sleepy John Estes Broken Hungry. I'm looking at a copy of that right over there right now, and those were my two records I used to carry around. But years later. Me and my wife Denise, we went to a church here. It's called the Church of St. John Coltrane, and it's an African Orthodox church where Coltrane's a saint. He's a legitimate saint in the church. And we started going to that. And then one day their piano player didn't show up. And they go, you know, the Archbishop of the Coltrane Church, who's a great tenor man himself, came out and said, "Does anybody here know how to play piano?" And I didn't raise my hand, but my wife pushed my arm up.
Well, that was good of it.
So he said, "Well, come on up." You know, I mean, they're pretty friendly people, you know. So okay, and I went up there and we just started playing. I had no idea what we were doing there. I'd never played that kind of thing really on the piano. And so they said after it was over, they go, "Well, you know, come on back next week, you know, and you can play again, you know." So I went back every week for. I ended up going back every week when I wasn't on the road for a few years, and I became the piano player at this Church of St. John Coltrane for a while. And I had to I started to teach myself how to accompany that kind of music. It was a real learning experience. And
Yeah, I mean,
they wouldn't tell you what key
yeah,
things are in or what you know or anything, man. they'd go, impressions, and then you'd have, play impression. They would, but we used to play Tunji and Lonnie's Lament and Naima once in a while. But so when I'm not the piano player there anymore. During the COVID, things changed, and then they got a guy that actually knows how to play piano. I'm that kind of because I'm not really I can't really play solos on any instrument. Like I was telling you before, I don't shred, so I can't sit there and like really string together a lot of like a fast solo on the piano the way McCoy Tyner or anybody like that does. But I could play a certain kind of solo on, it, and they would have me solo sometimes. But it was, they have these guys that can like just are brilliant at playing the jazz, the McCoy kind of style and stuff. And so that's who they have now. But I learned so much from it, man. And so I've got this like solo kind, I call it gut bucket jazz, the way I play jazz. It's like very stripped down. And I play, different songs like that with like a very simple arrangement. And so I started playing Naima, one, because I just like playing a song by Coltrane. I find it kind of an element of peace that enters in the set that I need sometimes in the middle of a thing like that. It centers me in a way. And so, not that I'm not centered, but it just feels good to play it. And so I played it that night, and then we just put it on the album. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. Why not? I mean, the blues and the jazz come from the same source anyway. So, like, yeah, it's the same
In
music,
many ways, yeah, maybe they do.
essentially. Uh, and you yourself, Peter, I mean, New York to the West Coast, I mean, you stayed in the West Coast and people see you as a West Coast musician. But I mean, how much New York is still in you, or did you forget that?
No, I still go back to Buffalo. I'm from Buffalo, New York, It's right up there by the Canadian border. It's lately there's a thing going on because the hockey team in Buffalo, who's doing quite well actually, they play two national anthems at their games, Canadian and American. Buffalo's almost like a part of Canada. I mean, in many ways, people until recently when they made everything completely uptight, people would just go back and forth. I used to go up to Toronto to see shows and hang out and just have fun, and people would come down to Buffalo all the time. But in Buffalo, I got in with there's a whole thing of music in Buffalo that people don't really understand. And what it is, I'll tell you real quickly what it is because you can get more farther into it. But there's a guy near there who's like the main man in Buffalo. His name was Stan Zalest, Zelest, Zalest. And Stan was a piano player that played with Ronnie Hawkins before the band guys did. So when I met Garth, I became, at about 15, I was a piano player in bands, and I didn't play with, I don't think I ever played with Stan, but I played with guys, all the guys that played with Stan, and they kind of brought me along at one point. And so they're in Buffalo, Stan's band was known as the Raven, and in Toronto it was the Hawks. And so there was like the Buffalo version of the Hawks was the Ravens or the Raven, Stan and the Raven, and it was a big deal. And so when I met Garth Hudson in 85, I guess it was, or 86, I go, "Do you know Stan Zalest?" And he goes, "Stan Zalest taught the band how to play rock and roll." That's what he said. And and then Stan Zalest ended up being in the band. He died as a member of the band, but he played in Buffalo all the time. We'd go see him play, and there was a bunch of guys that played with him, and it was a combination of, it was an integrated music scene, and um, there was this guy Elmer Witherspoon, and he would come off his shift at the Ford plant and come straight from there wearing his like blue overalls like from the Ford plant. He'd come in and change, and he'd come into these clubs, and then a lot of the guys that had come up with Stam, they were like Spoon and the House Rockers, and they would play, and there'd be these incredible gigs, and they were just a real swinging, great version of blues, not like you know. Not like the kind of blues that you hear that much, but was just like a really, I don't know how to describe it. It sort of sounded like the first Taj Mahal thing, like Leaving Trunk as a Buffalo drummer. The track called Leaving Trunk, that's Sandy Konikoff. and he'd be one of these guys. And so he's from Buffalo. So he played with Dylan later on, but that rubbed off on me because I was a piano player and I was also like under the sway of all these guys. And like you didn't just express yourself with music and do what you felt like. You had to play a role in a band. And so like this guy Morgano, Doug Morgano, he taught me that, that every instrument in the band had a job. And the drums did play on a song like this kind of song, you play like this, and then the bass player cuts it in half like this. Then the piano player doubles it up and rolls. And and he showed me a whole rhythmic thing that made rock and roll like really swing, like really rock. And it was a particular thing, and you didn't just like all of a sudden like just do something you felt like doing. They'd kill you. So it was and so that's what the band has that sound, and I took those kind of things and applied it to everything I've ever done, and so. Heavy metal music and a lot of music like that. Like I have respect for it, but in a lot of those styles, at least until I mean, for quite a while, there'd be like a riff, and then everybody would play the same riff. You know, Dun, 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 like Jeff Beck or something. But like even later, dun, 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 dun. Everybody had to play the riff. But in Buffalo, man, everybody didn't play the riff. Everybody would be playing something different, and the whole thing would like rub in a certain way. So everybody in the band would contributing like with a different thing to like this polyrhythmic or whatever it was thing. And I guess Stan and Ronnie Hawkins Stan came up with that somehow. I don't know. And or they just did it. Everybody was doing it. And there was like a whole club of guys around the country, like Jesse Ed Davis and Robbie Robertson and all these people that knew about all that kind of thing. But I came up in that scene, but I was just like a kid, and so like I was not well respected on that scene or anything like that. But I was in a band briefly called Skull Street Train, and we played in Buffalo in 70 or 71 or something like that. It was guys like all from that kind of scene. And and so I applied that to the plimsolls. So like if you listen to the records like Shaky City by the plimsolls, like you'll hear everybody like the guitar's going boom ba down, and the drums are doing one thing, and the bass is boom 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 doing a different thing, and everybody's doing a different thing. It's like a Buffalo type arrangement. And a lot of the stuff we did, I mean Buffalo or Toronto or the band or rock and roll or really New Orleans is really probably where it all comes from. And you know. And then there's a thing called the Calumet, and that's like where a lot of boogie woogie came from. And the Calumet's like the stretch from Chicago over to Buffalo, and it goes all around the lakes. So it's like Detroit, Flint, Gary, Indiana, um, Buffalo, Cleveland. And so like there's like this whole area around there, and like there's just a ton of rock and roll and blues that came out of that stretch. And so the like records like Bill Doggett, Honky Tonk. That's like the rock and roll record. It was 1956, Honky Tonk. Do you know that record, Bill Doggett?
Yeah,
Honky Tonk Part One and Part Two. Like the guys in Buffalo would say, like that was like the holy grail in Buffalo. Like that was the record, that dun, 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 but it taught everybody. It was very simple, but it taught it's sort of what I'm talking about, but a very primitive version of it. But it's not primitive, but it's a simple hit version of that kind of sound. But if you want to hear that kind of sound, I think you can go on YouTube. Oh, here's a weird story. And so this guy, so I started taking guitar lessons when I was like 14 or something like that. I very briefly took them from this guy named Pete Haskell, and he was a jazz guitar player. And he wore like, he had his hair, gassed back straight, in a pompadour kind of thing. And he wore like shark skin suit. And, he played a big fat Gibson guitar. And I'd go in there and sometimes he'd be wearing shades even. It was kind of a cliche, but he'd be like, yeah, man, once you've heard Charlie Parker, you can't go back, and all this kind of shit. Once you've heard 13 flat 5 flat 9, you can't go back to that. So he's like had this whole kind of like elitism about rock and roll, about rock and roll and jazz because he was really into Charlie Parker, and so he was teaching me how to play, and I learned how to play like Satin Doll, this thing called chorded melody, and Violets for Your Furs and stuff like that. And but you learn how to play the whole melody with the chords, on the guitar. And like he gave, Green Dolphin Street and this kind of thing. And so he taught me like I remember it was the week he was teaching me Violets for Your Furs, and I'm like what I'm 14, like what do I know about Violets for Your Furs? I didn't even really get the illusion. And so it just, and back then there was no YouTube or, if you wanted to hear jazz, so I wanted to hear Charlie Parker. So I had to get on the bus from my little town, my village I lived in, and ride on the bus into Buffalo and go to the public library where they had Charlie Parker records. And the Charlie Parker record they had was Charlie Parker with strings. And I loved it. I loved it so much. I loved Charlie Parker. I do. I still do. But so anyhow, I'm learning with this guy, and then one day I'm listening to the radio, and like Creedence Clearwater comes on with na 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 na, which strangely enough, I'm gonna tell you, I'm telling you everything, man. Like that's based on Midnight Hour. People don't realize that, but those are the exact same chords that Midnight Hour used. And the Midnight Hour doesn't, and it starts like you're starting in C, but you end up in D. That's Midnight Hour. But Fogerty took the whole thing and made Proud Mary out, and I didn't know that at the time. But I learned it off the radio. Na 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 na. And I go into my guitar lesson. I'm like, Pete, check this out, man. And I go na 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 na. He's like, Peter, what are you doing? Oh my God, that's awful. He couldn't stand the way it sounded. And it was just so primitive, and it just hurt his ears. It's like, oh God, that's horrible. What is it? And I go, it's like, it was on the radio, Proud Mary by these guys, Creedence Clearwater. Like, oh, Jesus. And it was like, and so, because those chords don't really go together in jazz. And so I realized that was really that my music was more like folk music and jazz and the things that I could really easily listen to. And I knew the songs and I knew where they came from and I had to play that instead of jazz. Now I would if I'd stuck with jazz, I probably would have learned how to do it. But you had to like stay up on Saturday, like to listen to WPHD radio out of Buffalo to hear like, the jazz like once a week and stuff. It was very difficult. My family had some records, but there weren't very many records and I just went, and then my sister came home from college. She'd grown up on Elvis, and I had two teenage sisters that kind of brought me up. And they were they were around the house all the time, and they were like 10 years older than me. And so like they had like their record collection was like Chuck Berry School Days backed with Deep Feeling and Elvis, and they had Fats on 78, Fats Domino. My sister played piano. And so she was pretty good too, played Boogie Woogie and Fats Waller type shit. And so one of them came home from college with Sing Out magazine in 66, Joan Baez, and I was just starting to get into Dylan and all this stuff. And so I got Sing Out and had Ramblin' Jack was in there with like how to play Ramblin' some, I can't remember which song by him, but I learned how to play the Fugs' Kill for Peace. And so I would have these reedy little guitar bands, playing around. But we would always, at every show we played at the youth centers around Buffalo in 66, we'd end the show with Kill for Peace. Kill, kill, kill for peace. If we don't kill them, then the commies will. And you don't want America to play second fiddle. So kill, kill, kill for peace. It's like a La Bamba chord change, basically. It's, it's so, and then we used to do, there's a song on Midnight Broadcast, when I was a cowboy. It's a Lead Belly song, and I learned that from the record I got at the library of Lead Belly. And I knew that like if you were in a cool like band, this is when I was like 12 or 13, that you did songs by like blues guys, blues singers and black artists and stuff like that. So I had my little garage band. And I liked Doug's song, but we did When I Was a Cowboy as a Tex-Mex song. Though I didn't know that was Tex-Mex. I just thought it was Doug's song at the time. And so I recorded it like that on Midnight Broadcast. But that's the kind of stuff I was doing in Buffalo. Here's the weird thing about Pete Haskell and that jazz story. The band and the first rock and roll band in Buffalo in the 50s was Stan and the Raven, like I just told you. and I was playing this club called the Sportsman's Tavern, which I still play sometimes. And I look at the wall, on the picture on the wall, there's an ancient 8 by 10 of Stan and the Raven from like around 1960, the original lineup of the band. And the bass player is Pete Haskell. He was my guitar teacher, but he, so I was taught by the guy that like played in the band with a guy that taught Garth Hudson how to play rock and roll. And Pete, but Pete, he showed me a lot of things, but like he never told me that he was in that band. And that was a famous band. Like you'd turn on the radio and it'd be like, Sunday, Stan and the Raven at the casino and blah, blah, blah. Be like a big thing on the radio. But Pete never ever let on. He was jazz all the way. But so I don't, really weird, because he was in a famous jazz in the most famous rock and roll group that ever came out of Buffalo. And then if you want to hear them, they made a record under the name The Rivals, and they do "Howlin' for My Baby" by The Rivals, which is a short-lived version of that band that had to put it out because they were going to rival some other band that they were fighting with. Everybody fight, all the bands fight in Buffalo. Like, there's a lot of like incredible stories about, yeah, we went to this bar and the band was playing and the whole band started fighting and then he threw his neck out, but then we went to the other bar and got in another fight. And then after the fight, he's like, oh, my neck feels better, that kind of stuff. So Buffalo is crazy, but that's what I got from Buffalo.
I Peter case now. I mean, if you met your teenage self just leaving Buffalo, what would you say to each other?
Cut the crap. I don't know what I'd say to that teenager that I was in Buffalo was so angry and like knotted up, man. I did like when I was a kid. I mean, I respected, Dave Van Ronk. I'd seen him play, and he seemed like he was really old when I saw him play in Buffalo, but he was probably like 40 or something like that. Like I used to hang around with this old lady that ran a record store and like knew a lot of me about music. She was probably, she had a beehive and everything. She was probably like 35 or 32 or something. So, I had no real concept of,
Age.
yeah, age, but I went and saw Lightning Hopkins play. How old was he in 71? I saw him play and I was really impressed. I don't know what I would tell myself. I wasted a lot of time dealing with a lot of bullshit with people and stuff, and I guess I would have rescued myself if I saw myself doing that. I would try, but you can't really tell anybody anything, and so I spent a lot of time fooling around, and I wouldn't have wasted so much time. But I mean, what can you do?
You
And then
do
what
it.
would that young guy tell me? Come on, get the lead out, I don't know what he tell me, but I try to live up to the things I thought when I do think about that, like how my 19-year-old self would see me, because it's important to stay in touch with that. I'm still in, I still feel that in a certain way that it's inside me. Do you feel like that? Like are you still in touch with your 19-year-old self?
Yeah,
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 okay.
yeah. You have to be. Yeah, wonder
Hmm.
how the hell have I got here from there?
Especially to do what you're doing, which is like, pursuing like an interest in music, it goes all the way back to like, to your younger days, but in other ways too, there's certain ways like I'm old, man. Like I'm 72, man. How old are you?
70,
Well, there you go.
the same age.
Just a kid.
Yeah.
No, no,
If only.
it's weird, man, being this old,
This,
It's like,
this,
oh my God, And certain things have changed, my relationship. I'm not driven by all the same drives, and I've done a lot of the things I wanted to do, and I'm still excited about playing music and doing trying to, reach, I'm still trying to write songs, I guess is what you would say, and like play songs that can, and I'm better at it than I ever was in a way. Do you feel
you
like
are.
you're better at what you do than you used to be?
Uh, I'm more. I've got more skill. Whether I'm better, whether yeah, you develop skills, but whether you've got the same drive and inspirations, another question, isn't it? So yeah, things change. But
Just because you learn new things, it doesn't always make it better. Like, some of those records, I listened to like, there's a record by the Plimsolls called, and not the one that we did later for Geffen, but there's an early, like, independent version of How Long Will It Take? And I just listened to that and I go, that was the first thing we recorded as the Plimsolls. There's just something about it. It's so on fire.
yeah,
And,
and
it's just like, we just went in and did it, and it was like, like super, and there's a way that no amount of knowledge or,
no, doesn't it? No,
trans it doesn't beat that necessarily, so
doesn't doesn't.
maybe I don't know. You don't have a choice though, do you? You get
No,
old.
no, you got you. It's the way life rolls, and that's it. And
That's right.
but I mean, not many musicians can have a full life career, which is what you've had. So yeah,
You know what part of it is, man, is that I can play solo. When I was a kid, I saw Lightning Hopkins play solo, and I saw Van Ronk play solo. Somebody booked him outdoors in Buffalo in March. Whoever did that should fire. Yeah, it was freezing out there, and there were snow piles around. And we were out there, like, you could see our breath. And Ben Rock's up there playing on a little stage out there at Buffalo State College, it was. But I saw him, and he was great, And there were so many, John Hammond Jr. is another one, great. I saw a lot of different people play solo. Even Simon and Garfunkel, I saw the two of them play, just the two of them, when in just one guitar and two voices. So I've always, and then Bob Dylan, and I love the first Bob Dylan album, the first one. And I mean, I love all his records, but the first one was a big influence on me. And I could, I could see playing solo as like a valid form of music. So as a complete form of music, especially after seeing Lightning Hopkins or, listening to Mississippi John Hurt or Robert Johnson or, whoever you want to talk about from that ilk. And so as the bands were winding, I went solo, and I conceived that it was just I was going to play solo. I carried a band for a little while at different times. Like in '89, I had a pretty good band and stuff like that. I remember I ran into Jesse Winchester one time, and we were up in Canada, and I was talking to Jesse Winchester, and somebody goes, "Well, Jesse, what happened to that? You had a really great band. I saw you down in Louisiana at some place, and you were just had a killer band. You just play solo now. What's that all about?" He goes, "When I had a great band, and people would just always come back after the gig and say, 'Wow, Jesse, great band.'" And he goes, "That's not what I want to do. I'm a songwriter. Like if you got a great drummer and a great lead guitar player, you know, I'm trying to like, So he was the first guy I ever heard to say anything like that. But I could play solo. And like I play solo for the same reason Woody Guthrie did, because I can afford it. I'm sure if Woody Guthrie had a big career and like, could have hired a band, maybe he would have done it, but he couldn't. And like for me, it's given me like existential freedom. I can like continue to be a musician. I put everything into the way I write these songs like you hear on this album, My Life to Live. And, it's all there. And then, in a satisfying way. And then I can go where I want to go. I can go tour Europe and Spain with Sid Griffin and have like fun and just go out on the road and I make come home and I can pay the bills and continue to write and to play, and to it's almost it's like being a poet except you got a guitar, it's I don't mean like poetry or anything, but I mean you're just free. And so there's an existential freedom to being a solo musician like I am, and it's enabled me to hit 72 and still be making records. Um, Something about you have to be. I don't feel like I'm unplugged. Like we used to joke, unplugged, and they let the air out. But like for me, like unplugged doesn't mean that at all. I'm not unplugged. The whole thing is here. Like I listen to Robert Wilkins, and like when I listen to Robert Wilkins on his records, when I listen to Reverend Gary Davis, or when I listen to Elizabeth Cotton, or anybody like that, the music's all right there, and you think, well, this is great. It's not missing anything, and so I can keep doing it and feel satisfied and continue to grow as an artist and keep going. Because if I just would have been to Plimsolls, so many bands they ran aground, and then you have to go out and do like the oldies circuit and all that.
Mhm.
And, it's debilitating in a way, like to just only be able to do that. I would have gone crazy. I don't know what I would have done.
I music industry's changing. It's getting harder. Any chance of you coming to the UK in the near
I was just
future?
I was just there
When? Well,
a couple months ago. I just toured. I played London, played Newcastle.
right.
Yeah, we had a packed house in Newcastle, man. Played Glasgow at some bowling club. We had a great gig in London, man. We played that What's Cooking thing there, and they had this big room, and it was just packed with people. It was so much fun. And we played Birmingham at that sold out show in Birmingham. And I play there about every 18 months. But and then we played Spain and we
Yeah.
played Spain. I was traveling with my friend Sid Griffin from the Long Riders, and he's a guy I've known. He was opening the show for me, and I've known him since '78. I met him. He wasn't in the Long Riders yet. I met him at the punk rock rehearsal place in LA. But we play all over there. Yeah, we played, I can't remember all the different places we played we've toured twice in the UK. And so hopefully, if they haven't completely destroyed international travel by then, I mean, I'm glad I got the tour before all this latest one.
Well, yeah, there is that.
It's like fucking world, man. It's gone nuts. So
Yes.
we were over we went to France. We played in Marseille and Paris. Sold out show in Marseille. We had a great time. We played Sweden, the Low Countries, Netherlands, Belgium. Wow, did we play Belgium? I can't remember. We played Antwerp, and then we went on up to Norway, Sweden, Denmark. The cover of the record, like the Live at McCabe's, that's taken in Stockholm.
Is it?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was. I don't know why the cover of Live at McCabe's was taken at Stockholm, but we, it's like a guy took it that was a friend of mine, Bert Devert. He was my friend that we played on the street together in '74 and '73. So he's living over in Sweden now, and he's a musician, but he also a top photographer. He took pictures at the Stockholm gig, and so we didn't. For some reason, we recorded the McCabe's gig, but nobody got a photographer to take pictures of the shows. So what the fuck, man?
All right.
We had to use a picture from Stockholm on the cover. So I come over, yeah, regularly. I love playing over there, man. I really do.
Yeah, and I say, those sort of venues are, at least you can get a full audience, can't you? Which makes all the difference. You know where you are financially and plan it. Makes sense. So,
I love going over there to play, man. The people there that are into music are really into it, and so I've always felt that. Um,
man, you said lives in London now, didn't he? I think. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, I love London,
Yeah.
I love
Uh,
Newcastle, man. I had a great time playing in Newcastle. We had a,
Newcastle is a great city. It
it's
is.
the greatest, man. Yeah, like
Yes.
the guy there. I'm trying to remember his name right now. Graham. Do you know him down in Newcastle? He's a concert promoter guy.
No, I don't.
And so we just went out and talked all night about, we were talking about all the different people he'd promoted over there, all the jazz guys and great R&B people, and it was great. We had a really great conversation. It was fun talking with him because so much great music's come through Newcastle, and
Yeah,
a lot
love
of
it.
yeah, a lot of great fans over there.
Right, Peter. Is there
All
anything
right, man.
you want to chat with? Anything you want to say to European audience?
Not really. I mean, we're saying it all really here. Go on out there, buy that record, take it home. I'm
Ah, well, that's
gonna
the bit.
say to people, man, like everybody listens. It sounds great on the vinyl. You got to get the vinyl to CD. It sounds better than that terrible streaming that we're all doing.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah.
Streaming sounds like rubbish, man. Especially Spotify. Jesus, that stuff sounds like crap. If I really want to hear something, and it just they have something going on with that where they mash the heck out of it to like if they did that to your food, you'd like starve to death. If they did what they did to the songs. So I don't know what to say to people except, I just would hope they check out this thing. And I appreciate you talking to me. And um, that's about the size of it, man. I don't know what else to say. Hopefully I will be coming back over there. God willing, the creeks don't rise, as Hank Williams used to say. And
And I'll keep an eye out because
all
I'm
right, please.
into it. Yeah,
Great talking with you, man.
yeah.
All right.
Cheers, Peter.